Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Aces in Armor, which is brought to you by PKB Games. It's for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and games generally run 120 to 240 minutes. Aces in Armor makes you the general of an army in a major World War II offensive to decide in favor of Germany or the Allies, United States and Russia. To do this, you must send your troops into battle and conquer production facilities. In addition to attack strength and armor of your troops, there's tactical setup, combat experience, damage and terrain have a decisive influence on the outcome of the battle. Since each unit brings its own strengths, you must cleverly assemble your army to win victory over your opponents. Your goal is to occupy factories. You win if you take control of 6 out of 10 factories with your armies, or 4 out of 5 for a 2-player game. Do you have what it takes to command your tanks, aircrafts, and troops through epic battles in World War II? Let's find out. Now, there's a few game modes to consider. You've got 4, 3, and 2-player competitive, 2-player cooperative, or solo, but in all cases, your main goal remains the same: take control of those factories. The thing I really enjoy about this game is just how easy it is to learn and play. You can be up and running in very little time, like 5 minutes worth of teach and you're in. And it might look like there's a lot of information on these boards, but it's very intuitive. And I even brought it to a couple friends who had never played a war game, and they easily engaged with it. So that's something huge. And they definitely have streamlined the game from what you saw maybe in Trench Club or other games. And you know, it is just about the battles and conquering and taking those factories. The thing also about their systems in general that I just really love is the fact that there's posts on each of the units. And you'll be putting markers on there showing what its level of experience is. 2 white for being a rookie, 2 yellow for a veteran, and finally a red for a war hero. So you know their level of strength when you go into those battles. And then the other post is for damage. You have gray markers that mark off the damage, and 6 and a unit is destroyed. So it is just such a great way at a glance at the battlefield, knowing exactly where everyone is at and how strong they might be when going into battle. Now, of course, there's going to be ways with the factories to either heal or repair your units, but in general, you know, you need to be moving around and taking out your fellow opponents, really positioning yourself in order to take over the number of factories required. Gameplay here is super straightforward. First, you're going to move units into position for whatever you're going to do, either attacking or trying to take over one of the factories, and we'll get to that. But you're going to move units based on their speed, and then you're going to declare attacks, if any. And then you're going to do your combat, if any, again, if you happen to be in position to do so. Otherwise, you're going to skip over those steps. And then finally, you have the money phase, where for every factory that you occupy, you're going to get a coin. And you can also, you know, repair or heal units and also buy new ones. So you'll see all the information about what you're doing with these units on the player boards. Now let's take a look at those. First, let's look at movement. At the very top, you have your speed, and that relates to moving through basic type of terrain, which is 1 movement. But if you're moving through a dense forest, it's 1.5 movements. So you have to calculate out your movements as you move through. And there's also other areas of the board like water, where not everyone can move through, but like your infantry can, but it costs their entire movement to do so. And there's also roads. If you get your unit on a road, it only costs you half a movement to move along a road. However, when you go to take over a factory, you have to have your unit next to the factory already, and that's going to require 1 movement to move onto the factory and take it over. And once you do that, then you just drop your token there to show that you own that factory at this current time. It can be taken back by your opposing players for sure. So you do need to mount a force and maybe protect some of these areas. And in my couple plays, I can tell you that factories change hands quite frequently. All right, so back to the player board. At the top in the middle is going to be the name of the unit, and then next to that on the right is going to be the cost in order to buy another unit or replace, which you probably will have to do, replace a unit at some point. And then below that are going to be your combat stats. And the first stat to look at here is your range. So some units are adjacent, so 1 range, or 2 to 3. If it is 2 to 3, you can't be adjacent and attack. And there's also an icon here. Green hex will show you that it's land-based. And if there's a cloud, that means it's air-based. And sometimes you have both. So some units can hit both land or air. Things to keep in mind when you're positioning yourself, getting ready to attack. So let's take these different combat stats 1 line at a time. And in order to do that, it's important to understand the sequence of play for combat. And there's a really handy guide on the back of the rule book that leads you through it. So there's just no questions. It's very straightforward, very easy, intuitive. for sure. So the first thing you're looking to do is see, does my unit have any damage? If it doesn't, you're going to get 12 dice. 1 damage, that means you get 11. If you have 2 damage, you get 10, and so on. You consult the chart, and you'll take that many dice and you'll roll them. Now, you're not doing strictly damage with these dice. Well, you're earning the right to do damage. So you're looking at this first bar in your combat sequence next to your range and what you can hit. You'll see there's white, yellow, and red. So if we look at the P-51, which I love the aerial combat for sure, you're going to be looking at the fact that my US unit here, the P-51, is a veteran. So I need to roll a 6 or less in order to hit the Messerschmitt. So you roll your dice and let's say I get 6 hits. Well, that means you're going to consult the chart on their board to see how much damage that does. So you look down below and you'll see that for 6 hits, it's only 3 points of damage. But the thing is that you will put the markers on the peg showing the damage you've done. And if it's not destroyed, you'll get 1 experience for that. So it really takes 5 experience in order to become a war hero. So you'll start with 2 novice or rookie, and then 2 veteran, and then finally 1 red at the top to show your full experience. But you'll do that amount of damage. Now, if it's ground units, you also have a green line, which can indicate some defense. You're in the forest, they can't hit you as well, so it's a little harder to do damage to them. It requires more hits in order to do the same amount of damage and so forth. So those are the interesting aspects about it for sure, and it's really that straightforward. Now, if we consult the dice chart one more time, looking at the very end, it gives you bonus dice for support. So based on how much support you have, you can potentially get up to 3 red dice to throw additionally with your main attack. It just is a great way to bolster yourself. Maybe you're going up against some of those big, tougher enemies like war heroes. It's a great way to just engage with them and get maybe them lower in health or potentially wipe them out. So those are really the key things. Those are all the basic things you're going to be doing. Obviously, there's a lot of strategy around how you move and how you position yourself to take over those factories. And when you do take the factories, obviously, that's going to be a key thing throughout the game. But also, you can be intercepted as you move through areas. If you move by an enemy, you can't just really sneak past the enemy. They can intercept you and stop what you're doing. There's tokens to indicate that and so forth. So some really neat things going on here. But again, it is a very streamlined version of a war game. And in the end, you just hope that you're occupying the most factories. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this game has a lot of things that I like dice chucking, huge amounts of dice, especially when you're not damaged, just throwing those dice, see if you get to do damage and so forth. And also, I really like the system. At a glance, you can see everything that's going on the board, from how much experience the unit has to how much damage they have. There's no question. You don't have to keep looking over at players' boards and trying to figure out where you're going to go and what you're going to do. But again, it just comes down to occupying those factories. But also, you see this side of the map, but the other side is a snowy side, so giving you a couple variations on how to play. But this really is a really simple and easy to engage with war game. But folks, ultimately, if it looks like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.